All right, let's go ahead and get into it. The Suns added Eric Gordon. I think that this move gives them the clear-cut best roster in the NBA. So let's talk about the move that preceded this one, the big one, the Bradley Beal move for Chris Paul. If you remember, you go back to that Nugget series, and I'm going to be talking about that Nugget series a lot because obviously the Nuggets are the champion. So that's a great measuring stick to, see where you're at. If you think back to that series, they were up in game two in the third quarter when Chris Paul got injured. So I don't think that this Suns team, as they were constructed last year, was that far off from winning the title. So you give them a whole training camp. You replace Chris Paul with Bradley Beal, who is at this point in career more efficient scorer, more volume of scorer, someone who gives the Suns the ability to keep two offensive players on the court at the same time and rest players. The Suns, they were playing their guys heavy, heavy minutes, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. And I always of the school that there's diminishing returns in that, and coaches shouldn't do that. But Monty Williams played those guys 46, 47 minutes at times. And you could just see towards the end of the series, they wore down, culminating in that game six that they got ran out of the gym. And Bradley Beal will help them in that regard. Then you just talk about Eric Gordon coming to the team in general. So you have Eric Gordon, you have the addition of Wananabe, you have the addition of Base Diop, you have the addition of Chizezi Metu. So these are guys who do not have that much playoff experience, but what they do have is the ability to score, and in particular with Bates Diop, with Watanabe and Eric Gordon, these guys are shooters. So if you remember again to that Nugget series, they tried the defensive lineup where they were playing Kogi and Craig, and they were not scoring enough points. And then they trotted out the corpse of Terrence Ross and TJ Warren, who two guys who are free agents who I probably don't even expect to play in this league next year. And they had, some success. Landry Shamet had one game where he shot the hell out the ball, but they just didn't have enough help from their others. These others, not only can they shoot, these are tall guys. Watanabe is about 6'8", 6'9". Diop is about 6'8", 6'9". Chiesi Metu is about 6'10". Eric Gordon, while he's not on the taller side, he's built like a tank. So, I think that if you put all of this around this team, I think top to bottom, they have the potential to be the top roster in the league. Maybe you can argue for the Lakers with the additions that they've made, and I'm going to make a video about winners and losers. Well, I'll talk about that more in free agency thus far. But is their roster perfect? No. I think that there are some issues that they can still work through. One of them being DeAndre Ayton. And this might give them the leave to actually trade Ayton in a trade where it's one for one, where they're not looking to get multiple players. But Ayton, is he going to be happy with his role? He's still going to be the number four scorer on the team. That was a sense of, frustration for him. Frank Vogel has talked about, hey, I've always had defensive anchors. Give me the chance to work with him. I can make him work. But does he want to be that? He's the number one overall pick. Does he want to just be a defensive anchor, or does he want to be? Does he see himself like a Embiid or a Jokic? Like, hey, I can be a guy that you can run the offense through. Another question that you could have about this roster is Kevin Durant. This is two straight playoffs where he has kind of been stuffed in the locker. Definitely in the Celtics series, not that much. I won't say it was as bad versus the Nuggets, but Aaron Gordon had success against him that I didn't really expect. Is that just a sign that Kevin Durant is just not in his prime anymore? We think of guys with these long tail primes because we are seeing, the greatness of LeBron, and we're thinking, and even the greatness of a guy like Chris Paul, who was really a surefire, top player in this league until probably last year. We think that that's going to be the same for everybody, but has KD at the age of 35 started to backslide? There was that Twitter debate of whether he's not a top five guy, and I think that's a legitimate question. We don't need to get into specifics of it now, but I do think it's a legitimate question. If you just look at these last two playoff series, he has not dominated in the way that you saw him previously when he had that great playoff series with the New Jersey Nets. That's another question. Another question is primary ball handler. They don't have a true guy. You would say Devin Booker, you would say Kevin Durant could do it, maybe Bradley Beal could do it a little bit, but these guys are not true point guards. The only true point guard that they have on the roster is Lammy Shamet, and as the only true point guard that they have on the roster, excuse me, is campaign. And, I've always said he's a crackhead. One day he plays well, one day you're like, man, this guy should be out of the league. So that might be an issue to come up. So, hey, there's no roster that's perfect. I mentioned the Lakers. One of the questions that you have to have for the Lakers is LeBron. The play that we saw from him in the playoffs, where it doesn't seem like he can really attack the basket consistently during a game. He has to summon it every other game. It doesn't really seem like he's on it. Is that the LeBron that we're going to expect seeing coming forward, or is that the LeBron that was hampered with a major foot injury that people thought needed surgery? So there's questions for every team. The Nuggets, the defending champion, they just lost Bruce Brown. You can question their playoff run with the schedule and the teams that they had. So there's questions for everyone. No one's perfect. But today, you definitely have to say, looking at the roster right now, that I think that the Suns, maybe you could argue for the Lakers, but if I'm putting it down, I think the Suns have the best roster in the NBA. That doesn't guarantee that they're going to win the title, doesn't guarantee that they're going to win the West, doesn't guarantee anything. But as of today, because free agency is not over, July 2nd, I would say that the Suns have the best roster. Okay, let me know what you think. Leave me a comment, subscribe, and as always, the game is the game.